Hi, I'm Pam at 101 Mile Kitchen, and today I'm making a fresh pea soup, a really nice light springtime delicious soup. It's fun to serve with a slice of bread and a nub of cheese, or just all on its own, or with a grilled sandwich of some kind, but it's just a really fun thing to know how to do. So we're going to start with our ingredients. I have a bag of frozen peas. I have let these thaw to some degree so that they'll cook a little bit faster, but you can use them straight out of the freezer. Or you could use fresh peas if you are so lucky to have them. The only thing you'll do differently is when we go to cook them in the pot, a fresh pea will take actually 2 or 3 minutes longer to cook than the frozen peas will. I also have a shallot that I have already chopped here, but this is what it looks like. If you don't have shallot in your kitchen, use just a half of a small onion or a quarter of a larger onion. It chops up to be about 3 tablespoons, and the flavor difference, there is a difference, but it'll still make a really lovely soup. I also have a lemon, and I have a little sprig of fresh mint. Both of these are optional, or you could use one or the other. And they just make the soup be a little more special, but if you don't have those, don't worry about that either. Next time, you can try that next time. So we're going to get started by we're gonna start, I forgot one thing. I have a little bit of olive oil. You could use butter or any neutral flavored oil, and I have maybe a teaspoon, 2 teaspoons, probably about 2 teaspoons in there, and I'm going to saute the shallot right into the soup pot. We're just going to let that begin to soften, and while they do that, I'm going to open my peas. So you don't have to worry about what size of package. This happens to be a 1 pound bag, and fresh peas often come also in a 12-ounce package. It doesn't matter because we're going to just be working with ratios here. When we go to put in our water, it will. We're just going to put in enough to cover the peas by a certain amount. So you'll see you don't need to worry about measuring out. So a 1 pound, 12 ounces, whichever you have, is just fine. Our shallot is beginning to soften, beginning to sizzle, and it'll turn translucent, sort of clear, rather than the opaque white and purple that it is now when it's ready. So while we're waiting for that, I'm going to get my mint and my lemon ready. So I'm going to take the zest off this lemon. I've already washed it thoroughly and dried it. That makes the zesting be easier if the lemon is very dry. Otherwise, the zest sort of clumps together and it just isn't as nice. So I'm going to take the zest off. I almost never use a lemon that I don't zest it first. Even if the zest doesn't go in the recipe or the juice, I will use that some other way because I find the zest to be, gosh, that's where all the flavor is. The acidity is in the juice, and all that flavor in that freshly grated lemon zest is just a beautiful thing. So really, it's only been a matter of a minute, and the shallot is ready. You don't want to let that brown if you can avoid it. And I'm going to pop the fresh pea or the frozen peas right into the pan. You still have a little bit of frozen ice on them. That's okay. And I'm going to just take some fresh water, add it to the pan to just cover the peas. You can always add more, but it's hard to take it out of something like this. So we're going to just barely cover the peas. They're swimming around in there just nicely. Let that come to heat. I'm gonna salt that a little bit with some sea salt. I'm gonna say about 3/4 of a teaspoon for me, but that's my preference. And I'm going to add some pepper. Today I'm using white pepper. Black pepper is also terrific in it, so. And I add a fair amount. I like pepper. So some fresh ground pepper. We'll just stir that in so that water is flavored. Now, why am I using water instead of stock? Well, you could use a vegetable stock or a chicken stock in this. I am more and more not using stock when I'm making like a pure vegetable soup that just has like these peas. It's just I want the pure taste of this pea to really shine out. And I find it just not really necessary, especially when I'm adding the shallot and the other aromatics. So experiment with that. You may decide you still like the more complex flavor of adding a stock or broth. But frankly, I'm not finding that it adds all that much when I'm wanting something that's just really light and just very pure in flavor. So we're gonna let this come to a strong simmer and just let it simmer for a couple of minutes. In the meantime, we can get our mint ready. And I'm just gonna take off, I'm gonna take off the leaves here. So for fresh herbs, working with fresh herbs, it's always best if you've washed them and they've had a chance to thoroughly dry before you go to work with them. If they are damp at all or wet, they just won't. They will clump together too, just like the lemon zest would. So make sure they're dry. And I stack mine up. Have 3 or 4 in there, 4 or 5 in there. I stack them up and I roll them kind of like a cigar. And then I just take my knife and make really thin slices through that roll. It makes it really easy and handy. You're not trying to wrangle a bunch of loose leaves doing that. And you might want to chop through that once or twice just to give you this really fine chiffonade of mint. And oh my goodness, the scent of that is just incredible. I think I'll do another couple of leaves for maybe about 2 teaspoons of mint. You don't want to overdo it, but it is such a beautiful combination with the pea and beautiful with the lemon. So there's that. We're not quite up to simmer yet, but I can tell that the peas are no longer frozen and they're getting hot, but I want them really hot and just a little bit cooked. I think frozen peas still do need just a little bit of cooking to make them, but not too much, because you don't want to make them mushy and gray. You want to keep them really vibrant and bright green and alive. So now I'm just going to be adding the lemon zest to the soup. I'm not going to add the juice when I'm cooking it. Green vegetables, when acids are introduced to green vegetables when they're cooking, they have a tendency to turn gray. And that just isn't what we're after. We want this really lively looking, bright green soup that matches the grasses that are greening up all around. And so I will actually quarter up this lemon and serve a lemon wedge with the bowl of soup. So why don't I just go ahead and do that, get that get the wedges made. So they'll be ready to serve. I'll just get rid of any seeds I see. Just flicking them into a little pile or into your garbage or your scrap bowl. And that's that. Those are ready for a garnish, and this is a nice juicy Meyer lemon, and that will add a really nice touch to the cooked soup. But we don't want to introduce that while it's cooking. And while my well, no, here. We're almost there. You see, I don't know if you can see the steam coming up. It's getting quite hot now. And I would say that this part of the process, if you're using a medium to medium high heat, will take about 5 or 6 minutes. That's all. It really takes no time at all to put together this soup. So I often make this just for a really quick lunch. It's very easy. When this is cooked, you have some choices. You can fish out some of the peas to leave some of them whole. We are going to blend this soup all together. But if you'd like a few peas just for texture, take some out and separate them while you're blending the rest of it and add them back into the soup. Or if you want more of a pureed, really creamy, smooth soup, just blend it without doing that. I'm going to be using my immersion blender. I love this thing. I use it so much, and I just think it's really an essential kitchen tool. But you can do this also in a blender. Just put your hot soup into a blender. Make sure and take that little inner cap off of the lid so that the hot soup doesn't explode. That would be dangerous. Don't do that. Or you can do it in a food processor as well. So I think that we are about there. One thing I forgot, and that is to grab a bowl. I'm gonna go grab a bowl. One moment. Got my serving bowl. Have that ready. Okay, I'm gonna add my lemon zest now. I'm just gonna tap it off of the microplane grater. I'm gonna add my mint right now. I'm gonna stir that in just for the last few seconds of cooking. So now we have what? We have shallot, pea, mint, lemon, which are optional, and salt and pepper. Okay, that's that. Now, I'm gonna use my immersion blender. I'm gonna leave the peas all in and create a smooth soup today. Add a little bit more water. There we go. Get the blending going. Beautiful bright green. Foaming up a little bit with the blending, but that'll stir right away. Right off. The extra water because because my pot, I'm using a little bit larger pot than I normally use so that you can see inside of it, and my pot was not the contents were too shallow to really hit the blender, so I added a little more water for that. Okay. It smells delicious and beautiful. It is pretty. I'm gonna turn my heat off now. And let's serve some up. I've been wanting to show this to you for a long time because it is such a quick and easy and delicious little soup to have. Give it a squeeze of lemon. And there you have it. I would taste it, except for I didn't bring a spoon over to my counter either, but you know, you can taste it before you serve it and adjust for salt. You may like more salt or more pepper or a little more mint or a little more lemon juice or whatever you like. But I hope you enjoyed learning how to make this really quick 10-minute soup with peas today, and thanks for joining me.